Okay, and we are live. So, have no fear, the American Werewolf is here. And if you haven't noticed, we are in the middle of a Hollywood strike that has been going on now for 6 days? SAG strike has been going on. The WGA, the writer's strike, has been going on for quite a bit longer, actually, several weeks before the SAG strike started. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, what difference does it make? Why would I care? There are a lot of projects, upcoming projects that I'm looking forward to that I want to see. I think some of them have already been wrapped up, so we're going to get some of those throughout the rest of the calendar year. But after that, who knows? Who knows what's coming. I mean, I was interested in seeing Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. It looks like that's already going to drop. That's okay. This new Exorcist movie, I was hoping that they were going to take it to for further reshoots and editing because, the test screenings weren't that great. That's not going to happen now. It's going for a straight drop on October 13th. But after that, projects like the new Crystal Lake, that's going to be coming to Peacock, the Friday the 13th prequel. That's not going to happen. Any number of things. I just had Spider Dabrowski on the show. He has a new psychological horror film called Down Below, starring the great Eric Roberts. Stuck at 70%. He wants to get his movie out because it's a holiday. It's a Christmas horror tale. So he wants to be able to get it out in December. Who knows if that's going to happen now. The next season of Andor that I'm very much looking forward to has been frozen. I'm not sure about House of the Dragon. So there are tons and tons of projects that are in the works now that have just kind of frozen in place. And who knows how long this is going to take. This could go on indefinitely. And unfortunately, what's happened for us as the viewing audience is that, the culture wars have kind of eaten everything. And so you have people that on one side of the aisle that are saying, I stand with SAG, I stand with the WGA, I stand with these unions. You've got another very loud demographic, these two sort of loud extremes saying, burn Hollywood, burn. The position of this channel is that, I don't want Hollywood and the film industry in my country to burn. But looking at it and doing just a little bit of research and just from an observational position, running this channel now in its third year, it does need some course correction. Hold on a second. We got Eric here. What's happening, man? Apparently actors aren't allowed to promote upcoming material as well as this is, apparently in the middle of the Oppenheimer screening, a few days ago, the entire cast had to get up and leave once the strike was announced. We were talking about this on Friday when Spider Dabrowski was on. They just walked out. They had to walk out in the middle of it. It's an odd position. And, what does it mean? What do these unions want? What do the performers want? What do the writers want? Are those reasonable requests? Let's take a look. So I went to the SAG-AFTRA website, and this is from July 17, 3 days ago. We're fighting for the survival of our profession. Here's the simple truth. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to look at some of the demands from the WGA, and then I'm going to offer some observations that I've sort of bookmarked through Twitter and leave it up to you, the audience, to make up your mind. But I think, before I start to get into this, there do need to be some changes in Hollywood, and we'll get to that. Okay, so the company is represented by the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which include Amazon, MGM, Apple, Disney, ABC Fox, NBC Universal, Netflix, Paramount, CBS, Sony, Warner Brothers, Discovery, HBO, and others, are committed to prioritizing shareholders and Wall Street. the shareholders and the tech bros have kind of taken over Hollywood. It's not a creative haven so much anymore. Okay, detailed below are some of the key issues of the negotiation and where things stand. We moved on some things, but from day one, they wouldn't meaningfully engage on the most critical issues. So this is as of 3 days ago. I got this right, and I'm not going to read through all of it. I'm going to go through a couple of lists. So the first bullet point is performers need minimum earnings to simply keep up with inflation. Okay. We need an 11% general wage increase in year one so our members can recover from record inflation during the previous contract term. Them, the most we will give you is 5%, even though that means your 2023 earnings will effectively be a significant pay cut. Due to inflation, it is likely you will still be working for less than your 2020 wages in 2026. This is the way unions work. As someone who used to be a teacher, always looking for, a wage increase, keeping up with inflation. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong. A lot of people don't like unions. I'm not exactly a fan, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Second bullet point, performers need the protection of our images. This is a big thing. And performances to prevent replacement of human performance by artificial intelligence technology. US. So US is the SAG union. Here's a comprehensive set of provisions to grant informed consent and fair compensation when a, quote, digital replica is made of our performance, is changed using AI. Them, we want to be able to scan a background performer's image, pay them for half a day's labor, and then use an individual's likeness for any purpose forever without their consent. We also want to be able to make changes to principal performers' dialogue and even create new scenes without informed consent. And we want to be able to use someone's images, likenesses, and performances to train new generative AI systems without consent or compensation. Now, this is something that's been going on for a long time with the deepfakes. When we saw it in Rogue One, when we saw the return of Peter Cushing's Moff Tarkin, and I'm sure there are tons of other similar examples of this, but it's this AI, I don't pretend to completely understand it myself. It has some sort of fun uses, but I could see how someone would not want their image just used forever in perpetuity, period. Like, I just wouldn't want that, period. I mean, you would have to pay me a significant amount of money to just, continually use my image forever. So, okay. Here's another bullet point. Performers need qualified hair and makeup professionals. Okay, well, all right. As well as equipment to safely and effectively style a variety of hair texture, styles, and skin. Okay, so here's where, they might be losing us, the everyday Joe and Jane average. Us, how about consultations with qualified hair and makeup professionals for all performers on set to ensure equity for performers of color and a requirement to have the proper tools and equipment. Then begrudgingly, we will do this for our principal performers, but background actors are on their own. Now, my position on this is that, I'm not so much thinking of the top tier, actor, the Tom Cruise, the Rock, the Anya Taylor-Joys, these sorts of people. I think for every one of them, there's probably 100 regular people who just want to work. So, that's sort of the mindset that I'm keeping up with when I think of, my friend Tony Atherton or Spider, who's just trying to get his show his movie off the ground. Or, my friend Rod, who's been a member of SAG for probably over 30 years now, or close to 30 years, and has Hollywood acting credits to his name. They're just everyday people. It's easy to think of, oh my God, Anne Hathaway isn't going to get her caviar, that sort of thing. It's easy to be dismissive of it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to paint this with a broad brush. But yeah, that's the way a lot of people look at it. And sometimes it can be easy to do that if you're thinking of, hair and makeup. Okay. All right. Let's keep moving. Performers need compensation to reflect the value we bring to the streamers who profit from our labor. Us, consider this comprehensive plan for actors to participate in streaming revenue since the current business model has eroded our residuals income. Us, or them, no. Now, we're hearing all over the place that the streaming bubble is bursting. And that's another thing that I'm sort of concerned about, is that the timing of this. I just saw somebody, I think it was the Disc Father, and I'll see if I can bring that back up again. He just said the Netflix just came up with an $18 billion loss for the last quarter. And we're hearing of Disney just bleeding subscribers. So, you know, unless some of these executives and these big corporations have a come to Jesus kind of moment, I don't see them wanting to, spend more money for the talent, this sort of thing. But I can understand that in a way, but then we'll get into some other things that say, well, okay, well, maybe, some of the money that you're putting in over here could be redirected. In Hollywood, from what I've seen, kind of reminds me of Elon, those stories about Elon once he took over Twitter and he found out how much money they were spending on spa days and, beverages and, massage, whatever, and yoga classes, and nobody was working. It's one of those. Okay. All performers need support from our employers to keep our health and retirement funds sustainable. I get that. People need health insurance. I once broke my leg. I was in a probationary period. I had a job, a full-time job, but it was a small business. And I was in the probationary period for health insurance. So I wasn't covered when my leg broke. Had to have surgery to get a plate put in there. Wednesday night to Saturday morning, I got a bill for $35,000, which at that time, this was a long time ago, that was more than the job paid for the entire year. So I sympathize with people who don't have health insurance. Us, contribution caps haven't been raised in 40 years, imperiling our pension and health plans. Would you consider raising the caps to adjust for inflation and ensure that all performers, regardless of age or location, receive equal contributions? Them. Here are some nominal increases, nowhere near the level of inflation that won't adequately fund your health plan. Also, background child performers under 14 years of age living in the West Coast zone don't deserve pension contributions, which is why we haven't paid them since 1992. All right, so coming up on the last two. Principal performers need to be able to work during hiatus and not be held captive by employers. Us. These timelines we propose help series regulars by limiting the increasingly long breaks between seasons and giving them some certainty as to when they'll work again or will be released. Them. Take these few select improvements that will only help us select few. Last one, principal performers. I'm not sure what that last one means. It seems like they want something in between the gaps of seasons for series to ensure some type of work or something like that. Or shortening the breaks, because maybe the pay period only works while you're filming. It's not like an annual salary. I'm not an actor. That part I don't understand. Principal performers need to be reimbursed for relocation expenses when they're employed away from home. Us. Drop the ruse that series regulars are becoming residents of a new state or country when they go on location, and adequately pay them for all their relocation costs. Principal performers. Okay, then, here's some stipends which don't realistically reflect the cost of relocating to an out-of-state location or out-of-country production. Okay, I would have assumed that those things were all covered, but it doesn't look like they are. I would have assumed that if you were paying somebody to go work in Paris, for the next Mission Impossible movie, or wherever, Hong Kong or wherever you're going, that you're paying. Maybe it's only Tom Cruise who's getting the setup or Haley Atwell or something along those lines. Okay. Let's go with the WGA. Okay, so here's their pattern of demands. It's very much the same. These are the writers. Compensation and residuals. The pattern of demands is constitutionally required statement of general objectives for MBA negotiations. On March 7, 2023, the 2023 pattern of demands was approved by WGA members. 98.4% voting yes, 1.6 voting no. And the problem is that how many people are in the, like, I kind of see the company's point. I'm trying to see everybody's point here. The companies, how many people are in these unions? Like the WGA has over 20,000 members. Most of them probably aren't working. There isn't work for 20,000 writers, or you're supposed to compensate 20,000 writers who aren't working. There's probably the same people that usually find work, the top tier, and then, a bunch, maybe some people in the middle, and then a bunch of others that, may, just be able to grab that brass ring and, lift themselves out. But probably the vast majority of these people, I'd say probably 75%, so that's 15,000, probably aren't writing. It's a very strange position. So, okay. It's kind of the same. Increase minimum compensation significantly to address the devaluation of writing in all areas of television, new media, and features. All right, here's my thing about that. You'd have to be blind not to have noticed a significant drop in quality. And I've been saying this since this channel has started, of the significant drop in quality of the writing and the storytelling. I've said from the beginning, when it comes to making something good, give me a story. But some of these things that are being written now, a lot of them are just crap. Now, I don't know. I would argue that falls on the leadership, which is the head of these production companies, the head of MGM, the head of Disney, the head of Fox, the head of, Discovery, HBO, who's writing this crap? So, bleeding money on one hand through the streaming services, companies like Warner Brothers, $49 billion in the hole. And now, a significant decrease in quality in terms of writing. And now on top of this, a strike where people are asking for more money. Not a good combination. If you were to put this on a cooking show and throw all these ingredients into a bowl, you'd be like, what the fuck is this supposed to be? That's my take. Okay, so increased minimum compensation. Okay, we got that. Standardized compensation and residual terms for features, whether released theatrically or on streaming. And we should say that, and we've said this before, these streaming companies do not release their numbers. You have no idea what the streaming numbers are for Netflix or HBO or Disney or any of these types of shows. They play that very close to the vest. Address the abuses of mini rooms. I don't know what that is. Ensure appropriate television series writing compensation throughout entire process of pre-production, production, and post-production. So maybe it's a bracketed sort of compensation. At this point you get paid, here you don't get paid. Or maybe you get one lump sum and then you're not getting paid for rewrites. I don't know. And there's a lot of rewrites going on nowadays. Expand span protections to cover all television writers. Apply NBA minimums to comedy variety programs made for new media. Increase residuals for undercompensated reuse markets. Restrict uncompensated use of excerpts. Pension plan. Professional standards and protection in the employment of writers to feature contracts in which compensation falls below a specific threshold, require weekly payment of compensation and a minimum of 2 steps. Okay, for feature contracts in which compensation, okay, so feature contracts, so I guess that's, major productions, weekly pay instead of maybe one lump sum, a minimum of 2 steps. So that's a pay increase, I believe, if I understand that correctly. Steps that occur in terms of compensation thresholds. Being a teacher, yeah, okay, I kind of know what that means. Strengthen regulation of options and exclusivity in television writer employment contracts. They got to bring up some of this quality, though, because the numbers are trash. People are tuning out. Yeah, okay. Regulate use of material produced using artificial intelligence or similar technologies. Is AI sometimes, like when I watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which was, I think, a $250 million movie, it felt like AI had written it. It didn't feel like a person had written that. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Enact measures to combat discrimination and harassment and to produce pay equity. Well, it's Hollywood, so there's always some story of harassment going on. Revise and expand all arbitrator lists. So, I mean, a lot of similarities there going on. But, I mean, like I said, I don't know what's going on with any of these. People, wanting money, more money at a time when they're bleeding money, significant decrease in these sorts of significant decrease in the quality of the product. And now, asking for more money. So I can see the point where people are just like, who gives a fuck? Like if I wasn't doing my job and my company wasn't doing its job and it was producing a crap product, and then I went up and asked for more money, they'd probably fire me if they hadn't fired me already for generating a crap product. But let's take a look. I got some observations here. This is from Nerd Cookies here on Twitter. Many of the actors' demands mirror those of the writers, so it will be said higher wages, increase of residual payments, a type of royalty from streaming services, and aggressive guardrails against the AI. Guild leaderships want also new regulations regarding self-taped auditions. So moving away from COVID, a pandemic phenomenon that has resulted in significantly fewer live casting sessions. So I guess people are recording their own auditions and sending them in. I think they want to get back to the old way of doing things. So, I get that. We'll see what happens. There's a couple other observations that I had here. Here's one of them. This is just bizarre. This was 6 days ago when the strike started. Here's the thing about Hollywood. Hollywood is full of creatives. Hollywood is full of artists. And some of the top tier people in terms of direction, in terms of writing, in terms of acting, are really great. That doesn't always make for the most stable people. Artists and creatives tend to be very fucked up people. If they weren't, they'd be your fucking accountant. But they're not your accountant. They're actors and performers on stage and in front of the camera. And then out of the blue, we sort of had Ron Perlman, who, in terms of his performances, I'm a fan. In terms of his stability, not so much. Came onto Twitter and sort of threatened everybody. So let's take a quick look at that. Here we go.
One thing before I get off this.
Hold on. It says Ron Perlman on the studio exec that wanted the strike to drag on until union members lose their homes. Yeah, that was another thing that happened. The studio exec says our plan is we're just going to hold fast. And then when people can't start paying their rent, and then when people can't make their mortgage payments, then we're going to move on it then. And then we'll come to the negotiating table when they're kind of financially broken, which I imagine is what the vast majority of people that are striking are probably going to be in that position sooner rather than later. You're not talking about your Tom Cruises or your Daniel Craigs, or your Alexander Skarsgards or your, Matthew McConaughey's or your Matt Damons. We're talking about something else. Other people, the majority of people that are striking right now. And then when that happened, Ron Perlman released this. I don't think I'm going to get clipped for it, but we'll see.
One thing before I get off this. The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial. Some of it is karma. And some of it is just figuring out who the fuck said that. And we know who said that. And where he fucking lives. There's a lot of ways to lose your house.
Oh, dear.
You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 fucking million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker. Be really careful. Because that's the kind of shit that stirs shit up. Peace out. The one thing before I get off this.
So there's that. Like I said, I'm a Rob Perlman fan in terms of his performances. I don't know, but I mean, I see where he's got a point. If you're already in the position where you're going to, just hold out until people can't pay their bills, that's a very cynical perspective. Let's take a look. Here we have another. I gotta get back to that. All right, so this was, where are we? Okay. More than 170, see, this is what I was talking about. More than 170,000 Hollywood actors and writers go on strike. 170,000. So, again, studios, including Disney, Amazon, and Sony, Netflix, list of movies affected by the strike. I don't care about most of these. Beetlejuice 2, I don't care. I'm not going to see it. Deadpool 3, I'm just burnt out on comic book movies. Gladiator 2, I don't see how they're going to do that, but okay, Denzel's in it, so, we'll see. Juror number 2 with Clint Eastwood, Lilo and Stitch, Minecraft, Mission Impossible. Yeah, that I care about. Mortal Kombat 2, Venom, no. Okay, don't. But, I mean, if you are into those movies, these are the things that have been ground to a halt. A-listers such as George Clooney, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Margot Robbie, Florence Pugh, Jason Sudeikis, and Susan Sarandon are among the stars supporting the strikes. Christopher Nolan stated he will not produce any film during the strikes. Here we go. Studios argue that unions' demands are unrealistic given the challenges the entertainment industry faces, from streaming to fallout from the pandemic. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. So that was Disney CEO Iger. The studios have vowed to stand firm in the face of the strike. Janice Min, an industry expert, stated, quote, "If this goes on for a long time, you will feel it across the whole internet." Okay. Despite these warnings, the unions have said they are ready and willing to put up a fight for their members' rights and demands. And so this is from Mario Nafwal, who runs a pretty good Twitter page. My thoughts. While this is the first major strike in Hollywood since 1980, I don't find it concerning. Worst case, we might feel it for a while, but these things tend to work themselves out. However, I have one major concern here. Workers are already worried about AI replacing their jobs, and the technology is barely getting started. A 2021 report by McKinsey found that up to 800 million jobs could be lost to automation by 2030. That same report also claims that 950 million new jobs could also be created in that period. Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang argued that AI could lead to a massive wave of job displacement that could leave millions of people without work. Okay. Yeah, I don't see civilization accepting such a world, meaning mass unrest is inevitable unless a solution is implemented. Okay, I'm optimistic, but also very cautiously optimistic. I'm just surprised not enough people are treating this matter seriously. And by that, he doesn't mean the strike. He means AI. So, I mean, tons of different observations here. Here's another one from Mark Ruffalo saying, why don't we go with independent films? How about we all jump into indies now? Content creators create a film, a TV making system alongside the studio and streaming networks. So there is actual competition. And I think I found, I must have gotten rid of the tab where there were, I think, 39 independent films that SAG has agreed to greenlight. There's a couple of other things that I want to get into. I'm not going to go too much longer. Here's another thing. How is the money being spent? The money that is there right now. They're saying they don't have any money. Here we go. The top 10 highest paid Hollywood executives in the last 5 years includes David Zaslav for Warner Brothers Discovery, $498 million. But there's no money. Ari Emanuel, Endeavor Group Holdings, $346 million. Reed Hastings at Netflix, $209 million. Bob Iger, Walt Disney Company. I mean, you think about the quality of the programming, the content that you see on these channels. Warner Brothers is DC. That's all I got to say right there. Look at what's happened to DC. DC Comics, DC Studios, DCEU. Look at what's happening with Netflix. When's the last time we've had a really good series on Netflix? I mean, it's had a little bit of resurgence lately with these extraction movies, but is it really worth? Is one person really worth $200 million? Not one person on this list deserves even $1 million a year, and I agree with that. Ted Sarandos, another person over at Netflix, $192 million. Rupert Murdoch over at Fox Corporation, $175 million. Lachlan Murdoch, $171 million. Brian Roberts over at Comcast. Oh, Lord. If I had $1 for every time my internet went on the blick, $170 million. There, as in almost all walks of life, all of the wrong people, in most walks of life, the wrong people are in charge. Joseph Ianniello, Paramount, $152 million. Patrick Whitesell, Endeavor Group Holdings, $143 million. So there's money, but it's going to a specific few people. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I saw, if you're watching on Disney, Marvel's Secret Invasion. 6 episodes, got a $212 million budget. I think Katie Sackhoff, who's doing The Mandalorian, said the budget for the food for Disney and the catering budget is higher than the entire budget was for Battlestar Galactica when she played Cara Thrace, when she played Starbuck. So the money is going somewhere. It just doesn't seem to be getting to, well, let's just say it's being unevenly distributed. I'm going to keep going in this direction. I'm almost done with this. Here's another example. And I got nothing against this guy, but I'm talking about The Rock. This is from me, the 4K master, Tom Connors. Check him out over on Twitter. This is the main reason movie budgets are too high. That's another thing. Every movie costs. Do you remember 30 years ago when Terminator 2 came out and it was $100 million? $100 million now, only 30 years later, is dirt cheap. Especially these big blockbuster sorts of movies, $200 million, $250 million, $300 million. These ridiculous. And this is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will earn $50 million. This is from June 17th. This is 3 days ago. Red One. This is the highest upfront payment any actor has received for one single role, and that's via Puck News. I like The Rock. I got nothing against the man. I enjoy his movies. They're mid-level entertainment. But The Rock is not worth $50 million for a single role. I don't get it. I don't get it. $50 million? No. Sorry. Not $50 million. Is there anything else? No. That's about it. So, I mean, it seems like, again, as I was saying, a lot of the wrong people are in charge. I do not want the film industry in the United States to collapse, but there needs to be some changes. And there needs to be some change from the top. So some more money starts reaching other people. Because, when I went through that top list and you're looking at 300 million and 170 million, I mean, and then you look at the quality of the content that they're producing. How are these people just making this kind of money? It's not good. Again, I am not a Hollywood burn person, but there needs to be some changes. Okay, that's my video. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll be back very soon. I'm going to be keeping up with this as updates, as things occur here. But yeah, there do need to be some changes. All the best, and I will see you all in the next video. All right, hang tight, everybody, and God love you. Peace.